You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 50.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello, and welcome to our 50th episode of the Balanced Educator Podcast. It's like crazy to believe that we're already 50 episodes into this and that we're coming up on our 1-year podcasting anniversary. So crazy. So welcome to everyone who have been along for the whole journey, and welcome to new listeners. We invite you to subscribe in iTunes to get our episodes delivered to you every Monday. Now, today we are interviewing Tamara Hackett. She is a mindfulness-based children's author and illustrator and designer of creative and purposeful materials for all ages. Tamara aims to create moments of awareness, intention, and inspiration through all of her work. So before we get started with the interview, I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't heard yet, if you are in Winnipeg or area, anywhere in Manitoba, we will be offering a third EduCalm Classroom Professional Development Workshop on April 25th, 2019. We'll be offering one in English and one in French. And in this half-day professional development workshop, you're going to learn how to successfully implement a daily EduCalm mindfulness practice and how the EduCalm classroom curriculum can be linked to your regular teaching curriculum. Now, a year's subscription to EduCalm Classroom or École EduCalm is also included in the cost of this workshop. And we just had so much success with the last two, and so we're bringing a third one. So if you are interested in that, there is more info, and the registration is at www.educalm.com/EduCalm Classroom PD. And EduCalm is spelled EduCalme. And I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. All right, I think it's time to dive in. And just before we do so, I just want to let you know that I did have some problems with my mic. It wasn't working well, so the sound won't be quite as clear as it normally is, but it should all be fine. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Tamara Hackett, and I'm from Sweet Clover Studios. It's a company I started about 6 years ago. And what I do is create mindfulness resources for children. So I've got 2 published books that I published myself. And I just really like to creatively communicate with children. I worked with children for over 15 years in a lot of different capacities, and children of different ages and abilities. And what I was finding is that in order to connect with them, I sort of needed to find our own rhythm and way to communicate. So I would create resources in the classroom. I'm not a teacher, but I've worked in schools. I've worked in the hospital system. I've worked as a mental health support worker, developmental specialist, and my role was always really supporting teachers and speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and we would sort of be working in this beautiful rhythm to try to find different ways to connect with kids.
That's awesome. I love that you're not a teacher. I think that will bring a different perspective. No, it's good. It's a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I really respect teachers, and that's why I've dedicated so much of my time and effort to making resources, because it's something that I can't do. I don't think I'm a natural teacher, but I can create things for teachers to use.
And so you talked about it a little bit. But can you tell me, like, what brought you to where you are today? Like, why did your journey bring you to this point of creating these resources, writing these books? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So like I said, I worked with children for a long time, and I was finding myself almost at the point of burnout. And I know you guys have talked about that in the podcast
Yes.
before, but really, I wasn't feeling emotionally fulfilled, and I didn't feel like I was bringing the best to the table in all parts of my life. And so I started on my own journey of mindfulness and digging into what that meant. I really like the science of it. I really like knowing that there's tangible evidence, like this is real. And also started practicing. And once I started practicing, it changed my life. And it really changed the interactions that I was having with children and with my own family. And so I knew that I had to bring this into everything I did.
And what does mindfulness mean to you?
That's a nice question. I like that question. To me, mindfulness really means having a presence in your experience. So I was finding that my life was happening, and I would get stressed out about things that weren't stressful. It's like, oh, we're going to have a barbecue, and then I'd be stressed about that. Or I wasn't really feeling things. I was just doing things. So it comes into everything, like I said, like the conversations, the way I'm feeling when I'm listening to somebody. So it's in everything.
And how did you start your own practice, and what does it look like today?
Well, I started reading. I think that was the first thing, because I thought, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? So I started just reading some books on mindfulness. I also have a very strong meditation practice. So it went hand in hand. I felt like when I was learning to meditate, it was coming into my everyday life, whether I was eating or taking a walk outside. It was all sort of blending together. Today, I practice two things. I call it a set time mindfulness practice, where I purposely sit down and focus on something intentionally. And that could be an object. It could be part of my body. It could be engaging in some sort of sense. So that's what I call set time mindfulness practice. And I do that every day. And I also have moments of mindfulness all throughout my day as well. I'll change it up. Sometimes I'll attach it to a certain task that I'm doing. I'll say, so every time I brush my hair, or every time I go into the fridge, then I will pause. And I'll take a moment to really, it's really helped me. So I'll do that as well. And then I have, about a 40-minute practice of meditation as well.
And you do this every morning, or when do you do this meditation practice?
Every morning.
And what does it look like? You said 40 minutes. Do you normally do like a guided meditation, or what do you use?
I really let it flow depending on where I'm at. The absolute minimum is that I would sit quietly before my kids wake up and have create some space, silence, and sort of go into the inner part of my body and mind. And I'll do a gratitude practice. Sometimes I'll do a visioning for my future or the day. And sometimes I'll do a couple of yoga moves in there to wake me up.
Yes, right?
If I'm really just so tired, then I'll start with a little bit of purposeful movement to get in that zone.
I love that. And you talked about before your kids wake up. So do you practice with your kids at all? Like, do you have a mindfulness practice with your kids, or what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So my kids are just about 7 and just about 10. So I've started this when they were babies. And
Wow.
At that time, it was a lot harder because they were unpredictable as far as when they were going to wake up, and also their patience and understanding as to why you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
So I started as small as I could. I didn't expect them to be able to entertain themselves for half an hour at a time. So I would just take a moment whenever I could. They would see me, whether, I know you guys have talked about this, where you are intentional with your breath and your presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll do that a lot, and they get it. They pick up on it. Both of them have their own way of practicing now too. My son will say, can we meditate, or can we take a moment for some mindfulness, which I'm very grateful for, because
Wow.
as I've learned, they've learned to integrate it into their lives as well. They were also both with me when I wrote my 2 kids' books. So, we're sitting at the kitchen table. I'm painting, they're painting. I'm saying, does this resonate with you? If you stop and feel your heart, does that feel good to you? So it was a collaborative process, actually. So it's second nature to them now.
I love that you involved them in the creation of your books, and
Mm-hmm.
feel like this is the perfect time to talk about them. Can you tell me about these gorgeous, by the way, children's books that you've written?
Thank you. So I've written 2 children's books, Mindful ABCs and Mindful 1, 2, 3. The first one was Mindful ABCs, and it was really written to introduce children to what I call meaningful language and vocabulary. So every letter has a word and an animal attached to it. So I guess this is a podcast. I was going to show you.
Well, you can show me.
But so the book has an animal. So M is for mindful, and for moose, because we're in Canada.
Yes, that's so perfect.
So I define the words in a very simple and easy to digest, easy to engage with way. And then I found that children, because I've worked with children for so long, I know that they need repetition. They need things that are
Yes.
easily recognizable. So they might know their letters, but then they connect with the colors or the imagery. So everything is done in original artwork, watercolor paintings, and they can go back to it over and over again, and they can learn these words that they might not have ever heard, but it starts to become part of who they are. Like G is for grateful and for giraffe. So we can talk about, what does that mean? What does that feel like? And then it's these endless conversations about what these things are.
I love that. And I really love that you paired it with, and it's an animal for all of them, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, for kids, like, I've never met a kid that doesn't love animals.
Yes, exactly.
And so this is perfect to kind of like create that connection, right, in their minds.
Yes, that's exactly it. My intention with bringing the animals in was to have another point of connection, so that every time you read the book, there's another way to connect. Like, let's go back to the page where the pig is. It's just having these natural conversations, so that bringing these words, the vocabulary, and what they mean isn't a rigid process. It's a learning process. And I know you guys talk about a growth mindset, so that's all what it's about in the books. And Mindful 1, 2, 3 is the follow-up book from Mindful ABCs, and every page has a practice on it. So you're learning numbers, sequencing, but for example, number 8 is 8 beats of my heart. And then so the practice for the page is, put your hand to your heart and take a moment and feel your heart. And so it's great for groups, for kids to start experiencing these things and to know what it actually feels like.
I feel like your books would be perfect for introducing these concepts to little ones. I mean, this is perfect. Even I'm thinking like our program, Educalm Classroom, like this is so compatible where you use the book to introduce the concept and then you can go back to it throughout the modules that we've created. It's
Yes.
so great.
Thank you. That's exactly it. And that was the point for it to be able to work with other things, because I don't think there can ever be too many mindfulness resources, because different kids are going to connect on different levels and at different moments wherever they're at. So one day they could be reading a page and taking a breath can feel so different depending on where you've come to before that breath. So that's what I was hoping, is that it can be fun, it can be easy, but they're actually building skills so that by the time they're in a situation where they actually need to stop a reaction that they're having, they have these skills that they can go back to so easily.
And I love that. I mean, you painted the book, so you're the illustrator and the author.
That's right. Yeah.
That's huge. You're amazing at painting. But where I was going with that is that just the fact that the book itself is so simple, you know, like it's not overwhelming. You were very mindful of how the book was put together, and I feel like it's a great representation of what you're trying to teach.
Thank you. That was the hope to it. It's also introducing a new aesthetic to children, because they're not typical cartoon images, and watercolor to me has a feel.
Yes.
And so because my background is also in art, and I'm a natural visual communicator, and I thought, this is the way that I'll be able to have a gentle introduction. And like you said, it doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah. Can you tell me, this is a little off topic, but can you talk to me a little bit about the process of writing these books?
Sure. So I've actually always wanted to write a book. Even when I was a child, I used to write kids' books. So the passion goes deep for me. And because, like I said, I'm a natural visual communicator and learner, that's where I would gravitate towards. So I wanted to write a book for children that, like you said, was simple and was visually interesting. So I just started by painting. The idea came to me while I was driving in the car. It came like I actually had to pull over on the side of the road and write everything down. And I probably came out with 80% of the words that I wanted to include.
Wow.
In the book. Yeah, it was. After that, like the process took a little bit longer, maybe 4 or 5 months of every day working on it, finding references to images of animals that I could represent that were friendly and spoke to the whole project. So after I did the paintings, then there was a huge learning curve where I had to learn new software. What do you do once you've got these paintings? Because that was something that was totally new to me. So it was big learning curve of finding the software that I could then upload the imagery and then do digital edits. Had to learn some new software, which isn't unlearnable. I learned it online, taking classes. So there was all these steps. You do the imagery, the words came naturally after. Then it was the software and the technical things. Then I used Amazon is actually a partner of mine where I do the soft cover books, and they print them and deliver them for me.
That's great.
So that's mostly where they're available now, and it's worldwide, which is great. And I also got a Canadian distributor, and I manufactured some hardcover books myself, which is a process as well. And I'm almost out of my hardcover books, so that's why I'm going more towards the soft cover.
That's so interesting. So you're You're self-published.
I'm self-published. Actually, the Mindful 123 book was Mindful ABCs was published in 2015, and Mindful 123 actually did a Kickstarter for. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
So I did a Kickstarter to get the second one published because I had the first one printed in a hardcover, and then I thought, let's do it again.
That is so great. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like, a lot of educators probably have a dream of writing a book. I know Kaylee and I have that dream.
Yeah.
And, it's on our list. One day we want to do that. So it's good to know, the getting it published versus self-publishing, what the process can look like. And so thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I think teachers have such great ideas, and because they have the experience with kids, they know how to speak to kids and what's going to resonate, and how to create those moments. So I really encourage teachers to, and I'd be happy to help any of your listeners if they want to reach out to me by email to help, because there's always enough room for everybody's story.
And where can they reach you?
Email is probably easiest. sweet-clover-studios@gmail.com, or Instagram. I'm on there, sweet_clover_studios.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes. So anyone who wants to reach out, it'll all be there.
Perfect.
Okay. I feel like we've been talking already for like almost 20 minutes, and we haven't even introduced really the topic of what this podcast episode was supposed to be about, because we're just having such a good conversation.
Yeah, that's great.
But today we're here to talk about equanimity. Did I say that well?
Yeah, perfect.
Sometimes with my French accent, I'm like, I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, and self-compassion.
Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about a lot, because that was the biggest game changer for me in my life and in my interactions with children, was implementing equanimity. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it, so we might it's
Let's
worth
talk
exploring.
about it.
Yeah.
So what does it mean?
So the way I explain equanimity isn't just like a one definition kind of thing. Equanimity is the part of mindfulness that gives you that quality of the moment. So it's about sort of that emotional charge. So it could be great, you're in the moment, but if you are having so much anxiety or anger, or your heart's pounding, it's you're very tied to that emotionally, and the quality of the moment isn't there. So what the equanimity does is sort of balance it out. It provides space, and it changes your relationship to the moment.
So how do you teach this, or how do you share this with kiddos?
Well, the first thing I do is share it with educators, because it's a hard thing to teach by words. It's very much about being instead of doing. So if you yourself, or the educator, or whoever you are, can have a presence in a moment, in an interaction with a child, they will feel that, and they will notice it. And whether you're able to say, this is equanimity or not, it doesn't matter as much as them knowing that you're present with them, and that you are not having pervasive thoughts of, I want to go home, or I'm not feeling good, or whatever it is. It's just a little bit of space within that moment.
So it's really about sharing it with educators, teaching them to really be in the moment.
Yes, exactly. So being in the moment, but also being in the moment with a quality to the moment that's not really, really good or really, really bad. It's a balanced presence. So I talk about mindfulness being, yes, you're in the present moment, but you're also engaged with your senses and your body, and you're not judging the moment. So that means you're not saying this, I'm doing really good, I'm doing really bad. It's just being aware. So it's your increased awareness as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I want to know, how can you develop, because this is a competence, I guess, that you develop. So how can you develop this?
So that's a great question. The first thing is the awareness. So notice what you're doing and what you're feeling in a moment. And once you have the awareness, then that can bring you to a moment of change. So if you realize you're in a moment and you're having too many thoughts about it, or you're not really engaged, then you can make a different choice. So awareness brings opportunity for choice. And it becomes easier once you realize it. And that also comes back to what we were, the topic of our conversation was the self-compassion. So when you come into the moment and you realize this isn't the kind of moment I want to be experiencing, then you can say, but it's okay. I want to handle that differently, and it's okay. Or whatever it is just having that self-compassion, because I know I've judged myself so much about everything to do with all of my interactions. I know teachers care and educators care so much about their kids. And so they take on responsibility of how the kids are all feeling in every moment.
Yes.
So it's that constant, it's the constant compassion and non-judgment for you and what the kids are thinking and feeling and doing.
Yes, I think that is so accurate, that as teachers or anyone working with kids, we just take in what everyone else is feeling.
Absolutely. And I used to sort of talk about it as being a roller coaster, like literally you're on a roller coaster. And if you are on this emotional roller coaster with the children, you can't help them as much. So I was finding going on the roller coaster with the kids, and then, they'd recover, they'd be done with it. Oh, they'd move on. And then I'm still emotionally reeling from the situation, and they're over it. And so I thought, I'm not being effective in this moment, whether they kept on. You can't help them come back to the present moment, or you're still on the emotional roller coaster and they're fine.
Yes.
And move on.
Man, kids have so much to teach us, don't they?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Like, yeah, they're over it, and we're still thinking about it at like midnight when we can't sleep at night.
That's it. That's it.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Have some compassion for yourself.
That's right. Yeah. So as somebody working with children who's always taken it so seriously, the emotional well-being of children, I really needed to practice that. And that's why that's a centerpiece of my teaching with mindfulness is the equanimity and self-compassion.
So when you practice this, you model this to your own kids. Is it okay if we talk about your own kids?
For sure.
And how does this affect them? What differences do you see in them, or do you see any?
Yeah, I do see a big difference. I see them having a sort of they have their own awareness of not only their own feelings, but also of mine. And it's really a very mature sort of interaction, even though they're 6 and 9 right now, that they can see if I'm sort of going down a track that because it is a practice, and that's something else, like that equanimity is something that you practice over and over again. So they see that in me, that I might not handle things the way I want to, but they're able to identify it and verbalize it now, so that they're like, should we come into the moment? Or
that's amazing.
Yeah, or cue me on things. So we have an open dialogue about it, and same thing with them, where the equanimity piece, like if they're judging themselves on their actions or their thoughts, that we can have space between us to either talk about it or just feel it in that moment. And it's allowed them to move through things a lot quicker. And I know that the challenge with educators is where you have so many kids and so many feelings and so many thoughts, for the time that you're with them. So that's why I just think it's education is where mindfulness needs to be number one.
I couldn't agree more, obviously.
Yeah.
Why we do what we do, right?
That's why I want to support you guys in what you're doing. I believe in what you're doing and think it's brilliant.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. Very kind. Yeah, I think that I always say that kids can't learn until they're in a state to be able to learn. Yes. So as a teacher, like when we throw curriculum at them, but they're not ready for it, like what's the point?
Yes, that's exactly it. And that's why I think it's so important to introduce these things when it's not a crisis situation. You're not actually dealing with anything. You just already have those skills. You're familiar with your body. You're familiar with feelings. And then you have the skills to be able to process. And that's why I was talking before about the science of mindfulness, that I love all the research that has come out that, like you said, the kids need to be in a state to actually retain information.
Yes. Yeah. Cycling back to your books, I actually know a few teachers that use your book in their classrooms.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's so funny, actually, the other day, one of the teachers made a story and had your book in there. And I sent her a message to be like, hey, we're going to be having her on the podcast soon. Like small world, right?
Yeah.
But do you know ways that teachers are using your book in their classrooms, like different little lessons they might be doing or things like that? I feel like that would be fun to share with our audience.
Yes. Yeah. No, teachers have, I am forever grateful to teachers because they have really been my biggest supporters. They've been taking into the classrooms, and I've had people, which I don't mind at all, photocopying some of the imagery and having kids have a letter per day, or thinking of their own words for each letter. So C is for create and for cow. So what does creation mean to you? And then the kids will have the opportunity to find something that means something to them. So people have done that. I've gone into schools and done readings before, and it's great to see kids be noticing different things. So the number 10, for example, Mindful 1, 2, 3 is notice 10 beautiful things right now. And so teachers have been doing that as a daily practice where, okay, let's take this time and hear everybody's ideas, and then you get to see different perspectives from different children, and it gives you insight into what they're thinking, what's important to them, and then it just gives you another point of contact. Trying to think of some other activities. Teachers are far more creative in that way than me, but that's what I've seen a few things so far.
That's great. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question, from where you are today, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say to be kind to yourself. And that's something that I've struggled with, and always wanting to do good. I have this sort of achievement, underlying need to achieve things and want to do good. And that comes back to the self-judgment and compassion part, where I would just say, it's okay. You're doing the best you can. The best you can is okay.
Yes. And this is something Kaylee and I have been working very hard on, because like when you own a small business too, like as a teacher, you feel that way. I remember, and I'm teaching in the classroom again, and I always feel that way at the end of the day, that it's like, oh, I could have done this. I should have, like, I didn't get to this kid today, or, you know, and in the business, same thing. Like, we have so many ideas, so many things we want to put out there, but it's to have that compassion for ourselves that, you know, what we did today is perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not easy to do.
You're right. And that's why it's a practice. It's a daily choice. It's not only a daily choice, but moment to moment choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And so obviously the biggest thing that our community struggles with is the work-life balance. So do you have anything you can say to that? How are you finding balance, or how are you currently working towards finding balance in your own life?
Something that's really impacted my life in the biggest way is creating a daily practice where I've committed to myself to having a minimum amount of mindfulness or meditation every day. And so that minimum is 5 minutes. And, you know, 5 years ago, that minimum was 10 seconds because, you know, things have evolved and my practice has changed. And this is right now where I'm at, is that if I do my minimum practice of mindfulness and meditation of 5 minutes, then I know that I have that anchor for the day, and that creates balance for me, whatever I'm doing. And knowing that throughout the day, there's always opportunities to bring it in again. It's that sort of lightness, the lightness approach to the day in balancing, whether I'm working or with my kids or thinking I should be doing something else, is like, I can stop and take a breath anytime.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And also earlier in the interview, you had mentioned just like attaching the cue to something, right? Like opening the fridge door, take a breath.
That's it.
Those are the little things that really help you to find that balance in the day-to-day, right?
Absolutely. And find things that work for you too. Like when I started taking mindfulness and meditation really seriously, I read all these books that said, you have to do this. You have to sit with your legs crossed. You have to, it has to look like this. And I thought, oh, if I'm not doing it that way, then I'm not doing it right. And we didn't speak about it yet, but I do have an online course, and I help people develop a practice that feels right to them. So that's the biggest thing, that when you find something that works, keep doing it until it doesn't feel good anymore, and then try something else. Like, it doesn't have to be as rigid as, in my opinion, as some people say it has to be.
I could not agree more. And I've feel that I've learned throughout the years to take what I'm reading with a grain of salt.
You're right. I agree too.
On that note, do you have any books? You talked about books a few times that you've read. Do you have any books that you would recommend reading?
Unplug is a good one. It's based on meditation, but it's a very easy introduction. And I think mindfulness and meditation go really nicely together.
So how can our audience connect with you?
I've got 2 websites. So Sweet Clover Studios is where you can find a variety of products. I've got a gratitude journal, the 2 books that we talked about, the online course, which also in every module has a bonus section for educators and caregivers, because
that's great.
That's the perspective that I wrote it from, is because that's what I did in my career for so many years. So mindfulness just naturally, I'm always thinking about educators when I was writing it. So I'm also on tamarahackett.com, which is my author website.
Do you want to spell that out for just in case that?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So my author website is tamarahackett.com, TamaraHackett. And I love Instagram. So if anybody wants to connect with me on Instagram, I'm Sweet Clover Studios.
Yeah. And your feed is beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Josiane. It was a pleasure.
I absolutely loved interviewing Tamara, and her books are absolutely beautiful, so check them out. We are so lucky that Tamara generously shared with us and with you a free mindful journal prompts for children worksheet. It's really simple, it's pretty, and it's ready to print and use in your classroom or with your kiddos right away. So your exit ticket for today is to go ahead and grab this free resource, and you can do so by going to www.educalm.com/the-balanced-educator. If you're already enrolled in our free resources library, you'll just have to log in to grab it. And if you aren't, you'll just have to create a login and enroll in the free resources library. And then you'll have access to this worksheet amongst like many, many, many others. That library is jam-packed with goodness for yourself and for your kiddos. So go ahead and check that out and let us know how you're using our free resources. We'd love to know. And you can do so by sharing in your stories what you're up to and tag us at Educalm on Instagram. Now, what are we up to this week? Well, last week, I forgot to talk about the fact that we started the Educalm teacher course and it's going fantastically. And so we are so excited to continue with the course. It's actually Kaylee teaching it, and we are now on week 2. And I will be more behind the scenes, creating content for all of you. And if you are already enrolled in Educalm Classroom, I'd love to hear what you would like for us to create next. That would be super helpful. So you can email me at bonjour@educalm.com, and bonjour is spelled BONJOUR, and let us know, what would you like to see in your subscription next? So may you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Monday on the Balanced Educator Podcast.